Hi guys, it's Nancy and I am making a winter card with the one of a kind stamp set from Catherine Pooler. This is brand new. 2 sentiments. You are one of a kind and thank you. The matching die set has these stamps or dies to cut out the snowflakes. But today we're going to do a single layer card here. And yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to talk about the silver ink we're going to use. So this is her new pigment ink. It is, there's 3 colors. There's silver, gold, and champagne. Silver, gold, and champagne, okay? And they are beautiful inks, but they are highly concentrated with mica. And what that means is you have to set them. So she does sell a Krylon spray. This is one I happen to have in stock. So when you're going to use these, there's a possibility that mica could dry and transfer with just your finger touching that. So here are 3 that I swatched out. And you'll notice when I touch this, see that mica comes off a little bit? And that's because it's highly pigmented and it's very shiny. So I'm going to show you another way you can lock in this ink without having to use... see, this one's not locked in. I did not see that come right off. I did not set this. So when you're stamping with these inks, you want to spray them. A hairspray will work or some kind of a clear spray to that. But we're going to do something else today. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending. And I'm going to start with Something Borrowed, Suede Shoes and Dress Blues. Let me grab my waffle blending mat. Grab a large Catherine Pooler blending brush. It's not on there. Okay, that came off. All right, so I'm going to start with Something Borrowed. Kind of do a blue ombre sky kind of thing. That one's Something Borrowed. Then I'm going to go into Suede Shoes. These are part of the Winter on Main Street collection. They are over at Catherine Pooler, available October 24th at 12 p.m. to Stamp Nation members, to the general public on October 25th. Lots of beautiful stamps, papers, background dyes, sequins, the new inks. So highly recommend you check them out. I will have the link down below for you guys. Just going back in with the Something Borrowed, just kind of blending a little smoother. Now these are dye-based inks, so don't worry if it looks a little splotchy. They do tend to even themselves out, and we'll get a more uniform look once it dries. Okay, and then the last color is Dress Blues. I'm going to flip my paper around for Dress Blues. And the secret to ink blending that I learned from my friend Tracy Schultz is load it up. The more ink you have, the more your brush gets saturated, the more your paper gets saturated, the better it blends, the better it looks. You have less white space, and it just looks better when you have more ink down. So a dirty brush actually does better with blending. I don't actually wash my brushes. Very rarely do I clean my brushes. And I just use like the same color family. So you'll see I'm using all blues here, and I will go back and forth. Now I feel like if I feel like there's too much ink on here, I'll take a rag and wipe that off, but I'm going to go back in now with suede shoes and blend into that middle some more using the same brush. And I think I have a pretty nice look there. I'm pretty happy with that. Now you do want to give that just a moment to dry because we just added a lot of paper or a lot of ink to that paper. So we're going to give that a second to dry. And we're going to be doing some heat embossing. So let me clean up my mess here real quick. I'm just going to take some stamp cleaner, spray that. Now, because I'm going to do heat embossing on a background that I just did ink blending on, I want to make sure that is dry. Now, the ink that we're using is a pigment ink, which means that it is very sticky. So, if we are going to do heat embossing, I have Wow Disco Ball here. It's very shimmery embossing powder. It should stick. I'm going to do a little test here. I'm going to grab a coffee filter. Use my anti-static tool. But dye inks dry very quickly, so this should be dry. Do a little test on the darkest area on the bottom there. All right, see how it's still sticking a little bit? Oh, it came right off. Okay, so we are good. So now I'm going to just take my snowflakes. I'm taking the medium, not the largest, but the medium and the smaller snowflakes. I'm going to use the silver ink. I have my snowflakes here. And I'm going to stamp these out. So instead of using a Krylon fixative spray, I am using this silver ink as my sticky embossing ink. So it will have a silver coating underneath, but because it's sticky, that embossing powder should stick to it, no problem. And I do want to make sure I give this enough pressure. Make sure there's enough. I definitely always recommend getting the re-inkers, but especially with these ink pads, because pigment ink pads can feel a little drier because it's like a paint. It sits on top of the paint, look, or sits on top of the paper. Look how beautiful that is. So you may feel like, hey, this is not as juicy as I would like it to be. So it's sitting on top. And you want to make sure you do not touch these because they will smear. Again, highly, highly concentrated with mica. Mica is what gives them the shine. So that's what makes these inks really beautiful. But be careful because, again, that is also what's going to make them smear or smudge. And you want to make sure you're using some kind of fixative, which is what they recommend, like the Krylon fixative or hairspray, something, just to set your inks in place. And that's all I'm going to do is just kind of stagger these down the bottom, but I'm not going to use my Krylon spray. I'm going to use the heat embossing powder. Actually, I'm pretty good with that. And then there are two tiny little snowflakes. I'm going to grab those, and let me clean this off real quick. Grab those 2 tiny ones, and we're going to splatter those around. And so I have the 2 small ones on one block here, but I put them on opposite corners. So that way okay, that is beautiful. Now we're going to do our heat embossing. So clean this up. Bring my embossing powder in. And it looks beautiful like that, but like I said, it will not dry like that because of all that mica. It will stay wet and it will smear. So this is what we're going to do. If you don't have a clear spray, you don't want to use hairspray, use some clear embossing powder. In this case, I'm using a sparkly embossing powder. Make sure everything's fully covered. And this is a sticky ink, so thank goodness that was empty. We don't need to add any extra embossing ink. Okay, now we're going to bring the heat tool in. I'm going to start on the bottom. And now that ink is locked in by that really pretty embossing powder. Now all I need to do is add the sentiment, "You are one of a kind," or "Thank you." I think I like the "You are one of a kind." I'm going to do that in a simple black ink. Actually, no, I'm going to do it in a blue ink. I think the black is going to be too much of a contrast. Let's do that in Dress Blues. First time using this, so I'm going to stamp it off first. Perfect. Beautiful. Very easy. 1-layer card. Simple to do. Using one-of-a-kind stamp set over from Catherine Pooler, the new silver ink, the disco ball wow embossing powder. Let's adhere this down. card base is a little crooked. Don't you hate when that happens? Okay. There we go. Plenty of adhesive, so nothing's going to move. And there we are. So very simple, very easy to do. We don't lose any of that shine. We still have that beautiful silver ink underneath, but now we've added that embossing powder. It is locked in, so I don't have to worry about that ink coming off now. Here are the other 2 cards that I made using parts of the new release. So hopefully you will enjoy those videos as well. If you have any questions, post them down below. If you are interested in shopping this release, I will have all of the links down below for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up before you go. Thanks for watching and keep on stamping. Bye guys.